Do you remember my tale of sadness and woe in rabbits? And how they're eating my plants and leaving no okra for me? It is time to read the hand, take a deep breath, and talk about what we're going to do about this. And we're going to do it over there. Hey, it's McCare. This is More Prana Gardens. We are going to talk about what to do when you find eaten plants in your garden. And I know the first instinct that a lot of people have is to terminate said predators. That's not what we're going to do. We're going to look at this from the permaculture perspective. So if you would, please take a moment, pick a thumb, hit that subscribe bar, ring the bell if you want to know when I put up new videos. And we're going to get into this project. All right, so when we find chomped on plants, the first thing we need to do is figure out who's eating our plants. If you caught the Golden Delicious guild tour, you might remember that I went through this whole process of elimination, figuring out who was eating my okra plants over there. And I arrived at bunny. So I started making chicken wire cages to wrap my plants in so that the bunnies couldn't get to them. I also have found a bunch of holes in the yard. My friend was like, I think that might be armadillo. Did some looking. Yeah, definitely armadillo. So figure out who's getting in and what they like to eat. So our bunny friends like to eat tender plants, grasses, weeds, vegetables, leafy stuff, flowers, those sorts of things. Our armadillo friends like to eat grubs and beetles who eat our roots and our plants. So I could try to trap these guys, but I want the armadillos here. They don't really dig up plants, and they're going to eat the things that hurt my plants. So I want to keep them. And then the bunnies, they don't eat everything, and I can keep them away from what I don't want them to eat. And when the bunnies come in here, they spray, or they spread, very readily available fertilizer. Bunny poo is instantly ready to put on your gardens and fertilize. So if they're in here hopping around giving nutrients to my plants, yay bunnies. I like them. I'm glad they're here. I could try to chicken wire the back of the fence, but why keep them out when they're adding some benefits? That's permaculture, right? We don't look at, oh, this bunny is here, I gotta get rid of it. We look at, what is this bunny doing for me? What can I do to curtail the bunny's behaviors that I don't like, right? So anyways, I want to let the bunnies in. I don't want to exclude them from the yard. I just want to exclude their damage. So we're going to make some cages. Now I already cut my chicken wire off of the roll. Let's see if I can do this without it flying up and hitting me. So I had my roll, and for this project, you're going to need your chicken wire, snips for snipping the chicken wire, zip ties. You can use string or wire or something else if you'd like. And gloves are not a bad idea, and neither are sleeves. I haven't gotten cut up making these cages, but I made a temporary compost bin out of chicken wire, and I look like, you know, I had a date with Edward Scissorhands. So, might be good. I'm gonna just go for it this year, or this time. Now, as far as how long of a piece you need to cut, if you know how big you want the opening to be, so I knew I wanted this to be about 1 foot across. So I asked my phone, what is the circumference of a circle whose diameter is 12 inches? That was about 1 foot across. And it told me it was 37 point numbers. So that's how wide I want to cut my piece, so that when I curl it, it makes it a foot across, right? If I wanted 6 inches, that was something like a 19-inch piece I would need to cut. Now, I could have brought a tape measure out here, and if you're a tape measure person, get you one, put it on that supply list before you get started. From my fingertip to my sternum is 35 inches. From my fingertip to my opposite shoulder, the start of my deltoid, is 39 inches. So I just cut mine to 39 even though I needed 37, and I laid down and marked the spot with my finger. Highly scientific measuring process, I know. So I'm going to make another tall cage first, and then all you have to do to make a shorter cage is make it shorter. I use potted plants to weigh down my corners. You can also use like a brick or a log or a board or whatever you have on hand. All right. The chicken wire has a line that goes across it in a couple of places, so my tall cages are 2 of those high, and my short cages are 1 of those high. Again, highly scientific here, guys. All right. I advise that you step on it and then start clipping, and that way it's not going to curl up and get you. And so once you have it cut off from the roll, you'll just snip it off as high as you want it to be. It's gonna leave a rough edge here, and I'm gonna put that edge down on the ground when I stand this up. And you can switch hands if your arm gets tired, or if you want to be fancy, or if you want to equally build muscle. And when you move your feet, be careful. It's probably coming for you. Almost there. Okay. Now, I went with the curl of the stuff. So it's going to curl up in the way that I want it to roll right now. I'm going to let this piece get out of my way. Oh, it is sharp. All right. And then this piece that I'm working on, I'm going to go ahead and get my zip ties open. I'm just going to let that curl. Make a little overlap because I did cut it to 39 instead of 37, so that gave me some to play with. And then I can make the little, I almost said circles, I guess they're hexagons, line up. And make sure that little line down the center lines up where they meet. And then just do a couple of zip ties. fighting me. It's always one that'll fight you. That's it. So if you want to tidy them up, of course you can come snip these off. And I could put more zip ties so that, like, where it's trying to separate right here, I could tuck that in and tie it right there. And then they can just sit around a plant like this. And then the bunnies can't get to it until it gets taller. With the big ones, obviously those will protect your plant for quite a while. I'm about to make a whole bunch of smaller ones because I have some brassica seedlings that I have not planted because I am waiting on myself to get these done so that the bunnies don't come eat those. Now, let's get back to bunny management, because we figured out how to keep them off our plants, but let's talk about what we can do for the bunnies, because we don't want to starve the bunnies, right? We're keeping them out of our plants that we want to eat, but they still need to eat, right? So outside of the fence, I'm going to be planting a lot of clover. I've already put some down. It hasn't started coming up. It'll do that in a couple of months. So I looked them up, and the bunnies like to eat the tender stuff, the greens, the grasses. And I've observed. Observation is a really important part of permaculture and of gardening and of living on planet Earth. So I have observed that a lot of my comfrey ends up with bunny bites. So I have comfrey growing outside the fence now. And I'm going to be planting some perennial flowers outside the fence. I haven't figured out which flowers they like to eat yet, but I'm going to put them a little smorgasbord out there and they'll figure it out. So they're going to have clovers, they're going to have comfrey, they're going to have flowers. There's already grass growing out there, which is, not their first choice. We're going to put more nutritious stuff down there. Next spring I might plant some okras down there. They really like the okra. Why not give them some? And if I keep them happy out there, maybe they won't be as prone to come in here. And I can plant more along the back side of the fence on the inside of it that they want to eat, so that it kind of slows them down. But once, plants get higher than bunny reach, and they will pull things over to get to them. But once they get too high for that, we don't have to worry about the bunnies anymore. They're not eating off the top of my okra plants. Once I get them up, they're fine. So keep in mind that you want to notice what they're doing for you, not just what they're doing against you, right? And you want to figure out how to work with the things that are coming into each plants, not necessarily against them. So figure out who's after your stuff, figure out what they want, figure out a way to give that to them, and make chicken wire cages. Alrighty? Here's the Golden Delicious Guild Tour, in case you want to see that and catch up on that bunny story. And here is going to be a video that YouTube picked for you. I'm going to try to get back inside before this unleashes on me up here. But I got to get the rest of these cages built. So, take care. Later, y'all.